the OP Pro was like a really amplified version of those events that we've been surfing. And it was like, and I think what happened was the day finally came when MR and the top pros came to California and to do a contest. Like it had been a while, but everybody was just really anticipating to see the pros in town.
Yep.
So everybody was there.
Yep.
And it was cool. Like the first heat was Dennis Jarvis and Mark Richards, and Mark Richards stood up on a wave, and you could feel the vibration of it. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That was Tom Curren. I'm Jamie Brisick. You're listening to Soundings, brought to you by the Surfer's Journal. The Surfer's Journal is a reader-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from Birdwell, FCS, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, Vissla, and Yeti. More book than magazine, it delivers 120 pages of independent storytelling in each issue, covering the people, culture, travel, and art of surfing. Members receive the magazine 6 times yearly, in addition to unlimited access to the magazine's archives, discounts in its store, plus subscriber-only access to additional digital content, exclusive film screenings, and sponsor offers. To subscribe, please visit surfersjournal.com. So, Tom Curren, I am going to borrow from the Encyclopedia of Surfing, hats off to Matt Warshaw, and I'm going to read. Enigmatic pro surfer from Santa Barbara, California, 3-time world champion 1985, 86, and 90. An incomparable wave-riding stylist, one of the sport's most revered and influential figures. His world titles brought salvation and inspiration back to American surfing, surf journalist Chris Morrow wrote. But it was Curren's humility, his shunning of the hype, and of course his ungodly natural talent that had the most influence. I can attest to that. I got to see a lot of it firsthand. I first saw Tom Curren when I was in my early teens, and that's a story that I get into in the podcast. But the generation I came up in, there was a code, and it was to be humble, to let your surfing do the talking, and Tom embodied that. And he had, I think, like a very interesting relationship with the media. He didn't seem like he wanted it. He seemed all about the business of surfing, but business is definitely the wrong word. It was such an extension of him. I've surfed Rincon with him many times. I've watched him do the kind of laps where he starts from the indicator, surfs down through the cove, and then trots back up the point. And I've always thought the great biopic of Tom Curren, the opening scene would be a close-up on his feet as he sort of trots up the beach and navigates the rocks, because there's almost as much beauty and grace in the way he would do that as he does, the stuff on the board out in the water. So Tom and I spoke at his home in Central California, which he wasn't advertising its location. He lives there with his wife, Mackie. We sat in his living room. On the television on the screen was a World Tour event, which was on mute, but we kept watching it. And yeah, a great conversation. Here we go. Okay, so Tom, kicking it off, my first memory of you is seeing you in the surf magazines, but the first time I saw you in flesh and blood was at Hammond's Reef. I'm guessing it was probably 1979. I was with my brother on the beach. Our dad had let us take the day off school for whatever reason. And we were there hanging out, and we'd heard about you, and we met Kim Robinson on the beach. And we said, oh, we hear Tom Curren surfs this spot. And he said, oh yeah, he comes every day after school. And sure enough, whatever time school let out, it was probably 3 p.m. We see this guy flying across this wave at Hammond's Reef, and it was you. And it was incredibly inspiring, and I've known you pretty much ever since. That time, so we're talking late 70s, early 80s, you lived off Milpas. You could probably walk to the beach from there. What was your lifestyle like then?
So that was about, 1979. I think I just started high school, and I would either take the bicycle down to Hammond's after school, and I was also doing the swim team. So I was busy with that and busy with school. Pretty kind of a routine, not a bad one, but a routine anyways.
At what point did you know you wanted to be a pro surfer?
Oh, I think I was already thinking about being a pro surfer at whenever that was, 1979. And it had to do with getting good contest results and going to the nationals, doing well there. And then it was around that time I was looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there, did you have mentors? Were there sort of people you were looking at as a model of how to be a pro surfer? Because, I mean, these are early days in pro surfing. It wasn't like it is now where it's a very clear path to becoming a pro.
Yeah. My favorite surfers were the guys who were in the surf movies at the time, or before that, 5 Summer Stories and Free Ride especially.
Yep.
And Sean Thompson started to come to Santa Barbara a bit. So
Yep.
he was like probably the number one mentor for the kids in the area to sort of emulate,
Yep. Al Merrick was a big one as well, right? Your shaper?
Yes, of course.
Channel Island Surfboards. Not long after I first saw you, I became a team rider for Channel Islands. And I think back now, and Al was so, in a very quiet way, he was such a big figure in my life in terms of just showing me the things that matter. There was a kind of level of integrity. And I only had a tiny bit of it. You would have had a huge amount of Al's influence in your life.
Yes, Al really kind of did a lot. He had the team. He was making boards for the kids on the team, and then working with Sean Thompson as well. And then we would do the team practices. You remember?
Yeah, I remember them well.
Those. Yeah. So that was something that really affected everybody, and it just that little team event every week. I forget what day it was, but then there was a barbecue afterwards, and
Yep.
And it was the thing that was great for the kids, and
Yeah.
ourselves included, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I remember.
of course, he had the really amazing shaping skills too.
Yeah. I remember being introduced to the tri-tip steak on the barbecue. It was my first time ever having that meat. And I think it was like something from specifically Central Coast, Santa Barbara area.
That's what I heard. Yes, it's tri-tip. Yes,
Yeah.
It's definitely a Merrick household favorite.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, no, I mean, we just skip the practice and go straight to the barbecue.
Yeah.
Like,
No, those
but
were,
you can't.
yeah. Those were good times though, because
Yeah.
I mean, not only was Al, teaching us how to be professional and take ourselves seriously as athletes, but there was these family values as well that I got from him, and that was really strong.
You're right. Yes, that's true.
What about, so you joined the Pro Tour, you won your first event, the Stubbies Pro. You later in that I believe the year was 1982. You won in the Marui Pro in Japan that year as well. What was it like going from, I mean, you were in the media, it was pretty obvious that you were going to be one of the great American surfers, but very quickly you became one of the great surfers in the world, sort of overnight, and you were not even 18 years old, if I've got my math right.
Yeah, I was around 18, and it was going sort of to plan, and I got the Stubbies win, and then I got a 5th place in Huntington, and then Japan, I won that one, and so I was able to qualify. Yeah, it was the Japan event, there was like a typhoon swell, so the waves were not like 1 foot, and just leading up to that, I was doing a lot of training, and those events on the West Coast we had that were great for kind of honing those competitive skills.
Yeah. Yep. At that time, it seemed you were leading the charge of athleticism to surfing. And I think prior to that, a lot of pros did not take themselves that seriously as athletes.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the guys I looked up to were very serious, and I tried to emulate them, and coming back from an event that I didn't do well in, trying to work on that, fix whatever that was, and
Yeah.
video training with, my friend Kito-san.
Yep. Yeah, you were really focused, huh?
Yeah, and then also the swim team brought a good kind of growing in more of like physical strength, that sort of thing. And then I guess that helped to, get the right mental condition as well. So,
yeah. What about being in the public eye? Was that nice? Did you like that?
Well, it was the thing I liked was, I liked competing, I liked winning, and it's of course has to do with performing, so it has something to do with that, I guess. But now when I think about it, I guess so, yeah. But it's like and if you want to do well competing, you have to think about your boards, and then you have to think about the judges. You really have to surf with a kind of performance in mind. So it's kind of a odd sport in that way. So you have a few different things combined. So
yep.
And of course, it feels good when when you get the score and you get the win or whatever. And that's
Yep. But the duties of a pro surfer in terms of being in the public eye, in terms of doing press and media stuff, I always got the sense that you would rather have not done that kind of thing.
Well, kind of. I don't know if I have that many interesting stories to tell, I guess, because I'm, not really at the moment, going and doing clips right now. Like, but it's part of the pro surfing path, to get those video clips and have a good video team, a filming team. It really is. It's a nice thing, because. But like with this, this is a little different because probably more interesting if I interviewed you than the other way around, But I like to talk about things, board design or whatever, So that's okay.
Yeah. What about so you burst onto the tour. You won a couple back-to-back world titles in 1985, 1986. You were in Rolling Stone magazine. You were in Sports Illustrated magazine. And then you as I remember it, you spent a lot of time in France and you were sort of away from the scene. Was that a conscious thing, or was it just that you loved what brought you to France as your home base while being on tour?
Well, I was living in France at the time, and I just wanted to take time off tour.
Yep.
The tour was hectic, and I just felt like I wanted to have a break.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep.
And so that was nice. It was a nice break.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you came back and won the world title. How'd that feel?
Oh, it was awesome. I was not really knowing what to expect. I got the first win at Santa Cruz, and I carried the momentum through the kind of the first half of the year, and I had enough points at the end,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was like kind of just surfing at free surfing, and then came over to Santa Cruz, and just everything kind of went well in that event. So that gave me a lot of confidence. We've always surfed in Santa Cruz at the events before, right?
Yep.
So I knew the wave.
Yeah. Yep.
And it happened to be pretty good too. So it
Yep.
was nice.
Yep. What about? I think I've asked you about this before, but there was the famous Haleiwa event where you rode the Morris Cole board with no logos on it. And it was such an interesting time because let me just set it up for the listener. But in my impression was we'd gone through the 80s, which in many ways as the decade kicked on, it got even more kind of bubblegummy. There were huge logos over everyone's boards. It was a lot of bright colors. It was kind of very in your face with advertising. in the commerce side of surfing. And as we were entering into the 90s, it seemed like it took a real turn. Everything went more subdued. You won this event, if I remember correctly, on a board with no logos, which at the time was sort of, no one had seen that for a long, long time. But was it a conscious decision? Did you purposely not put logos on your board, or?
Yeah, no, I was. It started as a thing where I was waiting for my stickers to arrive, but then I didn't put them on, because I was like, I don't know, maybe felt like the board worked better with no stickers on. Anyways, it was just it was not a really well thought out decision, but the other part where it was getting the 80s being like a lot of advertising and a lot of kind of a surf crazy advertising, I guess. I don't know. But so I guess, yeah, you're right. I sort of had a bit of ambivalence about that. But the end result was that being kind of making an insult to my main sponsors. So that was regrettable, So,
but what's interesting is you were almost anticipating the zeitgeist of what was going to come in the first half of the 90s, which was I always, having written about and observed surfing for many decades now, it seemed like maybe surfing lost a bit of its soul at the bubble of the 80s, and then in the early 90s, and the economy paralleled this. There was a sort of minor recession that happened in 91. But it seemed like the first half of the 90s was really about surfing reclaiming itself, reclaiming the reasons why we do it, and not trying to sort of sell it out to the world and make it as big of a sport as possible, but more like get into the reasons why we love to surf. So you ride this board with no logos. It may have cost, may have been seen as an insult to your sponsors, but in many ways, you were spearheading what would be, say, the next 5-7 years of surfing, which was, to my mind, one of the great things of that era was the search that Rip Curl put on. And it was the search for the perfect wave, but I always read it as, on some level, it was the search for what surfing means to us, And here you are at the top of your game as a surfer, but you're not confined to contests. You're not trying to win world titles. You're able to just go and explore and find new waves and ride new boards.
Yeah, I can see that. There was like this. Well, we definitely know that there was this bubble with the track of surfing, or the commercialism and things like that, and it just it had to contract anyways, right? So
yeah.
But the other part with the getting to go travel with the search crew was different from the contest situation, and it was very enjoyable. We just went around looking for good waves, and without any, trying to put it into a 20-minute heat, and just chasing swells and things like that.
Yeah,
so it was way different.
No, it was really incredible, and I always felt it captured the time really well. It was just sort of a genius concept in the sense of taking you, who was, at the height of your game, and allowing that exploration. I remember there was an ad for the search at that time, and I think you were holding like a 2x4 or a piece of driftwood under your arm, and as if it were a surfboard. But there was a sense of just really almost getting back to like what the Endless Summer felt like at the time when it came out, where this is what it means to be a surfer. You go and you travel and you meet new people and you ride new waves and explore.
It reminds me a lot of this movie back in the 70s called Day in the Life of Wayne Lynch. And remember this?
Yes, of course.
And I think that actually was a very big sort of a blueprint for the whole idea, because Wayne Lynch, he did well in the contest, but then he had this, he's making boards, surfing in Victoria, surfing with Nat Young. This is a very, I think that movie had a lot of, it was like a, great movie, a short movie, and it was And it was kind of like the blueprint for, in a way, I
Yep.
think.
Yep. No, I see that. That kind of I don't know what you call it, maybe a myth. And Wayne Lynch embodied that in terms of a guy who was so in demand, everyone wanted to watch him surf, and he just sort of dropped out and went semi-reclusive, I guess. And then there was another version of that. I think that happened with the whole country soul period, where a lot of the surfers from Sydney moved up north, northern New South Wales. It's interesting. Us growing up in California, I remember when I started to spend time in Australia, and I got a sense of how Australia worked. You go north of Sydney, and there are all these great point breaks that are uncrowded. It's cheap to live up there. The water gets warmer, but it's a different thing of California. You go further north, and there are some great ways, but it's a little less welcoming, I guess you might say. Colder, rockier, etc., windier.
Yeah.
But you've seemingly avoided kind of the center of things. You've never lived in Orange County, have you?
I have, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you live?
Oh, I was in Laguna Niguel.
Okay.
We were there for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm getting at is you lived north of Santa Barbara for a long, long time. Now you're here in Central California. You've seemingly not. You've lived away from things very confidently, which I always think of as a bold move, because some people feel like they need to be in the center of it all the time.
Oh wow. Well, I think. Well, we're trying something different, actually. We're a little bit away from the coastline.
Yeah.
A new chapter. We're moving a little bit north, and so far it's nice. I haven't maximized on the surf situation really yet. I mean, I got a few ideas about where I want to go and look for waves, but that's about it. Yeah, but you're right. It's coming from Santa Barbara, and the type of waves you get down there, when they do come, they're very pretty and nice, but they're not very consistent. So it's a trade-off, I suppose.
Yep. What does surfing mean to you at this stage of your life, Tom?
So right now, got this kind of pet board project that I've been, just kind of working out. It's about flex. I don't want to bore you with the details too much, but so that's pretty exciting. I've been out of the water a bit lately with the ear problem, so mostly been doing other things, kind of working on the place here, and but I can say that being out of the water now for a little bit, it makes you miss it.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of very much looking forward to going on a surf trip or some kind of, kind of looking forward next time I can try these new designs out and that sort of thing. So that's what's keeps me interested, I guess.
Yep.
As well as I do, what you need to sort of keep at it.
Yeah.
Not like sort of stay out of the water too long.
Yeah, exactly. When you're out of the water, are there other things you do for physical fitness?
Yeah. Well, it's still, yard work and stuff like that, but I don't have a gym club membership.
Right. Yoga or anything like that?
Not too much.
What about, I saw a clip where you were roller skating, which I thought
roller
was
skating is good. I do a little bit of that.
So tell me about roller skating.
Well, if you can think of it like skiing or like cross-country skiing a little bit, but you could throw in a couple surf moves.
Yep.
Yep. You could do it's kind of like surfing backhand. You can put one skate forward and all that. But what I found is it really works on your those little muscles in your feet and those little muscles that you don't use, and that helps with your surfing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think about that a lot. The amount of stuff happening in our toes, I think, is it metatarsals? There's a name for it that I'm trying to get at. But the stuff poking around. And when I watch skateboarding, I'm always amazed because that same thing is happening, but it's happening through a pair of sneakers, basically. But the way we almost get claws with our feet, the way we move around on the board.
Right. Yeah. So the especially if you're not so good at roller skating, the skating, it will eventually strengthen your feet, your muscles in your feet. So that's always good
Yeah.
in surfing, right? So
Yes. What about running? Do you ever run?
running is the best, but I haven't been running lately.
Yeah. I like running. I loved running. I don't do it anymore. My knees can't handle running, but what my knees can do, I found, is surf in a really low crouch, and I sometimes will ride finless, and you kind of need to tuck real tight, and I somehow my knees agree with that. But talk to me a little bit about the when you talk about the flex boards, is that the sort of skimboard type board you?
So the it's kind of it's from that. It's
In the
just stretched
lineage?
out into a regular size.
Okay. Is it the free scrubber board?
There's that one which is all ready to go. That 3-fin board is all like ready to go. And then the twin fin now with CI is also ready to go. So those are two good designs. I want to do one like actually Davey Smith is gonna maybe help me out, but this would be like a regular size board, more like a sort of set, sort of between I think 6.5 and 7.0, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But using the concept of the board that the 3-fin board I had in Mexico,
Yep.
which was it was a Hani board,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, have to get the board done and try it. So
Yeah. Free scrubber was something really special, and that was during the pandemic. You were down in Mexico. You surfed this right point break with seemingly very few people in the water, and you surfed so good. And I don't think anyone ever doubted that you didn't have all that in you, but it was a great reminder for all of us.
oh, well, thank you. I felt I surfed good in that too. And of course the waves got really good, so that was you don't really need to do a lot, the waves are good. So they did a nice production there, and but I was very happy with how I was surfing at that time, and gosh, yeah, there's like 2 days in a row. One day it was really good and it was super fast, and like I had my favorite board and I was just going like, and we were there, and then there was like one other family on the beach. It was the day before they shut everything. And then the next day the swell hit, and so we went to a different beach, and I was on the same board and everything was going great, but my board broke, and this family that was on the beach found my board, and then because it was Easter, they took it with them on their pilgrimage in the forest or whatever. So they took it for like a week. And I was very concerned, because my board was broke. I could fix it.
Yep.
It was like the best board, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, every day, like, did they come back yet? No. They come back yet? So finally got it back. Anyway, a couple of days there, I was very happy with my boards. And of course, those waves are always, they're just so fun.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're so fun.
No, I remember watching it, and I talked to a friend, and I said, watching Tom pump down the line on a wave is one of the most beautiful things I know, and I've known it for so many years.
Well, thanks, Jamie.
I'm just trying to make you feel uncomfortable, Tom.
Keep it up.
Yeah, exactly. No, when you, in all sincerity, when you were flying across those waves, did it feel like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing? And I guess what I'm getting at is, as middle-aged surfers, I have 5-year stretches where I don't quite get the feeling that, and then all of a sudden it comes, and I think it might be gone forever, and then I'll have a moment where I'll go, actually, I am tied to the ocean and surfing in a way that I've almost been in denial of, or I've almost tried to protect myself by thinking I'm doing something else, but then you get it, you connect with the wave and you just go, this is like, there's that feeling again. That is one of the greatest feelings. Did free scrubber look like that was happening for you?
Certainly, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There's, when you're kind of out of the surf enough, then you get back in. The first couple days are just like, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah, it can be very
I can't
humbling.
do this. Is awful.
Yeah.
And then you're like, then you get mad, right? You
Yeah.
kind of get mad, and then next day you go out, and then you're like, all right, this feels all right, and then your ribs hurt.
Yes, because you haven't been laying on a board so frequently. Yeah. What if you think back on your surfing years, what are you most proud of? What would you say is like you at your absolute best?
Oh, okay. Well, my early competitive career, and then, some of the highlights from the search movies, and then recently in Mexico would be pretty much three highlights. So I'm happy to say that, I had some of those highlights recently.
Yeah.
What was it now going on? Was it last year or 2 years?
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. No, but that's nice to have that recent, because it's much better to have it recent than being 25 years ago. As I've grown up as a former competitor, I'm thankful, and I very much miss those days of being so focused. But life sort of expands in such a way where I kind of go, God, I can't believe I was able to keep my focus so singular. When you look back at that time, what do you think, like in terms of how determined and how focused you were? A competitive machine. Does it seem like a different person to who you are now, or is that person still inside of you?
Good question. I don't know, because I do know that it takes a lot of discipline. You have to be, and I don't have that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the good thing about that is that you can start small and get back, to that place.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go, oh my gosh, I used to be so focused, and then, but you can work your way back.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. But, I guess, we probably go through the same question, now, how am I going to improve on my surfing?
Yeah.
Because that's important.
It's a huge
You want to
question.
be improving, not just be deteriorating. And so why do it?
Yes.
But, we just need to be in the water, right? Salt water, the camaraderie. That's
sure.
like super important. Excitement about a new board. These are great things, even for older people, right? I mean, but you really still want to be able to get at or near your best form, right? And to me, I guess the key there would be, it has a lot to do with boards. And if you feel like you got a board that's better than anybody else's board, that'll give you some kind of an edge, right? So that's I don't know, that's part dream, part reality, I guess.
No, absolutely. But it's an interesting one, and I think this is a very common thing for ex-pro surfers, and it's probably even more so for ex-world champions, which is, for me personally, I'm most enjoying my surfing when I can pull my ego out of it to some extent and just try to have fun and utilize it or enjoy it for its simpler things, as opposed to me being like the alpha guy in the lineup carrying it up or what have you. But thinking about the boards you've explored, I would assume, does it feel like, when you say surfing your best, is it about competition, or is it about just getting a feeling from your surfing?
Well,
like if you paddled out at Rincon, would you want to go, I'm the best guy out, and Dane Reynolds happened to be out that day, and so did Bobby Martinez, and I was the best? Or is it more of a personal kind of internal thing?
Yeah. So I guess it's probably more internal, because for a few years now, maybe, I was motivated to go surfing, even if the waves were bad, just to try out a different fin or a different board or something that was different.
Gives you kind of a reason to go out.
Give it the kind of little bit of a work aspect when the waves are bad. And I think that's one of those, that's a good factor to have, where you're trying to figure out this board or that board, or this fins or these fins. And then just you're just working on your own thing, I guess, in that way. So then you can say, right, this was we're on the right track here, or not.
Yeah.
And then you go back and try to figure it out.
Yep.
And so you keep kind of plugging away at something that you're working on. And testing it in the water, kind of thing.
Yep. Do you miss competing?
Not really. I relate to competing so much. I really enjoy watching the events, and if I was to think about competing, it would just be to kind of get back on my progress as a surfer. Actually to improve my surfing. That would be, if I was to go into any of these, some of the local events where they have divisions and stuff like that. If I did, be mostly to, try to push yourself a little bit.
Yep.
But as miss it, no. Because you really want to, you want to be doing well in the events.
Yep.
And so, that's a big one,
Yep.
To try to.
Yeah. Who are the surfers that inspire you these days?
Well, oh gosh, Kelly.
Yeah.
This is very inspiring. And then the rest of the top guys, and then the new arrivals on the tour.
Yep.
I have my favorites. I like the guys from California. I like to see them do well, and the girls.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just amazing, serious athletes on the tour, and they're they deserve their success. They're just they're working so hard. They're doing so well.
Yep.
It's not easy. It's you see 4 people in a heat, and 2 of them can't go through.
Yeah. And so you live here with your wife Mackie in Central California, in the hills, mountains. The beach is away. It's quite a ways away. What is a typical day like for you here? Day in the life of Tom Curren, not to be confused with Wayne Lynch.
Well, it depends. Like if I'm just at home, I'd be probably doing some project in the yard. I have my music gear set up, so I may do a little bit of work on a music project. And it's pretty chill, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just this is like a time I've been pretty much at home, and I guess getting that more of that feeling of wanting to travel again more.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been home, kind of not doing that much right now.
Do you play music every day?
Not every day, no. I should.
Yeah. Does playing music give you some of the feelings of surfing? Does it kind of fill you in that same way?
Yeah, it's the thing is, music is always great to play with other people. If you play at your recordings by yourself, it's one thing, and you can create, and it's very nice. But the best part about it is playing in a group, and I don't get to do that enough. But it's not going to be, any kind of substitute for surfing for me, right? So
yeah. But
it is cool, especially with other people or family. It's nice too.
Remember, I think it was maybe 1992. We went to Western Australia. It was one of the early search trips with Sonny Miller. Chris Davidson was there. Frankie Oberholzer was there. And we were surfing left-handers, maybe the box and some of those breaks. But you were recording a record with some folks from some Perth musicians in that natural amphitheater place that was just incredible.
Yeah. How was that?
No, I mean, I'll never forget that place.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was like a big cave, right? And
Yeah.
and there was recording equipment inside and instruments, and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of your first records, if I remember correctly.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. This year is the 25th anniversary of Searching for Tom Curren. What a great film.
It's I got to see it again recently, and it's it's just kind of like they took the highlights of me from the other movies and put them into one movie, and Sonny, he put it all together, and it just reminded me of all those great swells we had,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that one first wave you caught at Jeffreys Bay.
Yeah, and then hanging out with Sonny and then the team and stuff. It was really unforgettable time.
Yeah, Sonny was such a force. Wow. You're listening to Soundings with Jamie Brisick. This podcast and the Surfer's Journal are made possible due to TSJ's subscribing members and through the sponsorship of Birdwell, FCS, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, Vissla, and Yeti. To learn more about the Surfer's Journal and its sponsors, or to subscribe, visit surfersjournal.com. Now back to our guest, Tom Curren. Driving up here today from LA and passing, there was a swell, and I was passing, C Street in Ventura, and then Pitus, and then Little Rincon, and then Rincon. But I've often thought of how these right point breaks, and even for me coming from Malibu, these right point breaks have sort of shaped my life in some weird way. I've spent so many years riding them, and on my forehand, kind of racing down the line. But you, more than anyone I can think of, I mean, when you're living in Central California now, if you go down to Santa Barbara and you even don't even go in the water, but just simply look at Rincon or look at Hammond's Reef, does it bring back a lot? I mean, do you feel, is it almost like your shoulders are involuntarily like racing down the line? You know that feeling you get where it's like you're mind surfing, I guess?
Right. Yeah. It's always fun to go to Rincon anyways, because you always run into somebody from back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's always cool. That's no matter what. If you have a bad session, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But you see somebody that, you grew up surfing with or something like that. So that's, yeah, I always like mind surf and, I have this big 12-foot board. It's like kind of a paddle board. So I was using that a lot just in the summertime. So I was mind surfing these waves, thinking about my 12-footer, and
that's great.
didn't realize that I didn't have it on my car. I didn't. And I was like, but the waves were perfect for it. It was like some wind swell and
little cove waves.
Perfect. So I was real excited, but
but you could project yourself on there, but on a 12-foot board. Yeah,
knee riding.
Yeah, nice.
The level nowadays at places like Rincon is it's always been top level surfing. So you kind of see the best of the best at Rincon.
Yeah.
So when you mind surf and you're watching, you try to think even beyond that, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Well, you bring up something interesting there, because I think of surfers at the top of their game.
How would they mind surf? That's my question.
Yeah.
How does Italo mind surf really?
Exactly. And you even
where are the limits?
Right.
What do you think up when you already can do those?
Yeah. Well, when you were winning world titles, and when you were, I would say through the latter half of the 80s into the first half of the 90s, you were surfing at such an advanced level. Where were you looking for inspiration?
I guess, I always kind of held a high esteem for Aki's surfing, at the time, still do, and then Tommy Carroll.
Yeah.
Of course, before that. and then the whole crew were always, but Aki, I think especially, I think I had a lot of respect for him, and I think his surfing and his boards, the combination of what I was seeing was really the standard, to try to get to this level of speed, power, this kind of thing.
The interesting thing about that era, thinking of, say, you and Aki specifically, is aerials had yet to really enter into the language, I guess, or the vocabulary, whatever you want to call it. And in no way am I saying today's surfers don't have great rail game and surfing sort of on the wave, but at that time we were surfing with the limitations of you stayed on the wave, basically. You didn't boost into the air so much. I mean, Christian Fletcher, there were a few people doing it, but for the most part, the surfing that you won world titles on, the surfing that Aki did his best surfing and won a world title on, it was all on the wave face. And it became really about fitting with the wave and a flow and rail, different to what it is now, where surfers are kind of just looking past the lip.
Yeah. Well, it's the boards it's interesting. Like the boards changed too.
Yeah.
The momentum crew. They were on different boards for sure. So
Real low volume, right? Really narrow and thin,
and a lot of rocker.
Yes.
And then FCS fins.
Yeah.
This is what made a big difference. So
yeah,
this would allow, it's just a whole new, just a whole new way of looking at surfing, right? So
no, it really was. I remember that era specifically because there was the, I think what they were calling the reverse, which was the momentum generation. It was doing, say, a really hard backside or frontside carve, and then almost in the flow of that momentum, spinning around versus trying to just reverse on a kind of rebound or what have you. But it was almost as if the level of power had reached a point where you kind of had to spin out of it versus, try to do a figure eight or whatever.
yeah, no, and it's and again, like that period was a phenomenal time for board design, progression, and then also, with those boards, they were also able to, I think, improve on what was going on at Pipeline too, of course.
For sure.
So
yeah, almost similar to skating when street skateboards came in the really tiny wheels, and it was kind of like trying to get the board out of the way in some way.
Yeah, it's just a different thing.
Yep. Did you ever hit a point where you were looking at the standard of surfing, going, "This is passing me up, and I'm getting humbled here"?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Like
it was always a thing because of the progressive style of surfing coming in and not really having an answer to that. I mean, I've only really done any aerials. I can't really think of any. Maybe I did one once.
Yeah.
But anyways, the thing that I wasn't thinking about is that, some events there's no aerials at all, right?
Mm-hmm. True.
And so, there was place for me somewhere for a while still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because surfing is like that,
Yep.
Still need to know where to get the waves. You'll need to, anyways, still need to like elbow your competitors out of the way and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, well, sort of.
Yeah. What's it like when you see your contemporaries, Tom Carroll, Mark Accalupo, like all the guys that you were battling with in during your career? What is it like when you see each other now at this stage of life?
It's awesome. It's way different,
Yeah.
actually, because we talk about all sorts of things, and we're, way closer now, because we don't like keep in touch or anything too much. But those times are great when we have. We got invited to Lacanau, France, with some of the crew. I guess it was the former winners of the Lacanau. So so we got to hang out, and that was really nice.
Mm-hmm. You lived in France for a long time. Do you have a strong connection with France? Do you miss it?
Sure. We go there as often as we can. I haven't been there for now a couple years. Try to go there every year. So last time I was there for like 2.5 months or something. And yeah, it's like, it's great. Well, I remember one year, it was like 3 or 4 years now. It was good every day for like almost a month. It was like
Wow.
good.
When you lived there, it was way less discovered as it is now, and I would imagine you must have had just some fantastic sessions, yeah?
Yeah, so the sand can set up really nice, and then you just get just like a reef set up in the sand. And so yeah, it was good. I mean, I still remember the first time I went there, and went through the whole airport thing and getting in and getting in the bus and everything like that. And we get there, we come up, and the waves, it was offshore, and it was about sort of 4 to 6 foot, sunny, and like waves everywhere. So that was really amazing.
Yeah, it delivers that way for sure. What about jumping back to, I remember those early OP pros, and you had the double pump bottom turn. Where did the double pump bottom turn come from?
Where did it go?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really know, but what I would say is that the waves in California they can be a little bit slopey. So you have to do your bottom turn sometimes in 2 stages, right? And so you want to get into the lip, then you got to sort of start your bottom turn, pause for a second and see where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And then keep going.
Yep.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
And some of them were really vertical, like maybe even getting towards the 12 to 1 o'clock area. Those OP pros, of which you won several, those were exciting events, huh? They were huge in the history of surfing. I mean, a lot of people packed, a lot of energy. What was it like being in the center of those and kind of coming out of the water and hearing everyone cheer for you and stuff?
So yeah, that I was thinking about that the other day. You know who I was thinking about? D. David Morin.
Oh, I was just thinking of him too.
I was thinking of him because he brought this very professional, he had this edge, professional edge that brought a lot to those events.
Yeah, he was a great announcer.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. So I think that was like a big step forward, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
But I mean, those events seemed like they were the entire world was centered on Huntington Beach. They were a big deal. I mean, do you to win those? What'd that feel like?
Well,
the Huntington Hop.
So it felt really good, especially because I was kind of low in the rankings at that point. So that event put me back up into like I don't know if it was a top 10 or top 5, maybe something like that. So that was a very important event to win. And I mean, I remember the waves, they had that really deep gutter, so it was everything on the outside, and then
the Huntington
you can get in over that
Yep.
hop area, and then you get a little one more on the inside. It was very deep that year.
Yeah. You really got that thing down. That it was like a weighting and unweighting, sort of pushing. It was almost like pushing a cork down and letting it thrust up, and the Huntington Hop. Were you feeding off the crowd? Were you aware of like all the people on the pier shouting? And was that a thrill, or were you just more in an introspective place with it all?
Yeah, the Huntington is a wave that we've been surfing so long already. We've already surfed, contest after contest, and so that was, I guess, a little bit of an advantage. Also, because that wave, because it's a tricky wave too. So it really demands a lot from your board, because you need something that'll handle kind of bumpy outside waves, and then something that'll skim across the middle and look fast on those inside parts. So you kind of need a special kind of a hybrid board. You know, you need just a really good short board, I guess. So, and so the OP Pro was like a really amplified version of those events that we've been surfing. And it was like, you know, and I think what happened was the day finally came when MR and the top pros came to California and to do a contest. Like it had been a while, you know. I guess there was one in Malibu. Was it 81, I think?
Yeah.
But everybody was just really anticipating to see the pros in town.
Yep.
So everybody was there.
Yep.
And it was cool. Like the first heat was Dennis Jarvis and Mark Richards. And Mark Richards stood up on a wave and you could feel the vibration of it. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
No, that was really incredible. And I remember seeing it with you. But I mean, were you, let's just say, okay, you've come in from the final. You go up on the stage. D. David Morin is there. There's like splashing champagne over your head and giving you the big oversized check. Was that a buzz? I mean, were you thriving on that?
Sure, it was. Yeah, of course, it was a big thrill. And I mean, I drove back to my house, I think, or wherever I was staying in my VW Squareback, and I had the music up really loud. I was pretty excited. Yeah, I was really excited.
Nice. Growing up, I remember you were always a fan of the band The Who, and were you still listen to The Who?
Sure. I check them out on YouTube. You know, you can go and check out all kinds of music on YouTube. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, you know, I do a lot of that. What have you been listening to lately? What's been inspiring?
Oh, okay. I'm kind of generally, I just like oldies. You know, generally. I found a really good oldie station over here. A couple, and so they play kind of oldies from like anywhere from like the 50s through to the early 70s. Let's see, I can't really. I just found a very interesting record, like a LP. I found two, and it's just one of those things you find and you're like, oh, okay. And then you take it home and you put it on and you're like, wow. So this was Chick Webb and his orchestra with the Ella Fitzgerald, the very first recordings. And the other one was Cab Calloway.
Nice.
And this was recorded in the late 30s, I think. And like the recording quality, the whole vibe was very like, I guess the word I was thinking is modern. You know, they had a sort of modernism, sort of that Harlem scene, and the playing and the song, and even it's almost Cab Calloway does this kind of almost like rapping. He's like a scat type of artist, and this is way back. This is like going way back, and it really sounds relevant to me. That
sounds really good. When you are making music, do you hear more rhythms in your head? Do you hear lyrics? Where do you kind of begin on that stuff?
So the way I've been doing it, like overall, is that, you know, if you find a good kind of guitar lick or a song title or a phrase or something, and then you can just kind of work off of that. But there's all kinds of ways to look at what you want to do. Like you can write the words first. You know, I've tried that too and stuff. But you can approach a song, like a songwriting, from any perspective, right? You could approach it from a bass line, right? A lot of songs are just a really, really good bass line, and that's just all you need to build everything around that.
Do you have songs in your head all the time?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I don't know.
It's kind of a nice thing, right?
It's good and bad.
Yeah. It can
depends on the song.
Yeah, true. Well, I guess
like if you have a song stuck in your head, you mean?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm thinking more about your own music.
Right.
Like you're composing something, and
sometimes I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have that with writing, where I'm working on something, and it's kind of haunting me or consuming me or whatever. And I always feel like that's a very good place to be.
Yeah, and you also notice probably that you hit the waves for a little while, and then it just kind of like, doesn't it help?
Oh,
Like,
completely. No,
it's good.
I really, when I think about my entire relationship with surfing, I think great things have happened in the water, but it's often been a kind of afterglow of, I don't know, when I first started surfing, it was in Waikiki. I was on a family trip and I rode a Maury Doyle and I got some waves. And I remember being like back at the hotel and almost having like physical flashbacks of the whooshing along. And that was, I felt it. It was like the salt water had entered into me or whatever, like the sense of a wave, riding waves.
Right.
And I still feel that way. I mean, I still feel like there's a little maxim in writing, and it's, I don't like writing, I like having written. And I've turned that to, I don't like surfing, I like having surfed. Where sometimes it does feel like a chore. I'll go out in bad waves and I'm not having that much fun, but I know that it's going to give me something. It's going to give me this sort of bounce into my life after that. What else, Tom? What's interesting? What do folks who interview you fail to ask that you've always wanted to talk about?
Well,
what's your typical breakfast when you wake up in the morning? What do you have what's your morning ritual?
okay. Breakfast, I start with a bit of toast and coffee, milk,
Yep.
a bit of honey in there.
Great.
And also sometimes you go for some eggs too.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, poached eggs is very good breakfast.
Poaching itself is fun. It's a beautiful process, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't do it very good, but I always order poached eggs, and it seems to be good because you get protein, and you kind of like it's like an energy. You get energy, right, from poached eggs.
The poached is in, and you don't add any butter to the mix, so it's kind of the healthiest way.
Yeah, and then it's good. So I noticed that I have poached eggs, and I have a better day.
That's usually nice. I like that, Tom. I think we got plenty of good stuff here. Yeah.
Well, yeah. The only other thing is I'm very, my son. Two of my sons have surf school stuff, and I try to help them and try to give them my input and my experience, and so that all of my experience goes somewhere. So that's been pretty cool.
No, that's a great thing. I mean,
and that's basically very important for me because it's important to be able to actually contribute.
Yeah.
And not just like it's great to see the up and comers develop and do well, and to to help them a little bit if you can.
Yeah.
Well, let's go surf.
Yeah, let's go surf, Tom. It's great hanging out with you. What a gift, and thanks for doing this.
Yes, thank you, Jamie.
Okay. Soundings is produced by me, Jamie Brisick, and Jonathan Shifflett. You can find it on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. Our theme song is Ocean Parkway by the Gun Trusinski Duo. You can find more of their music on Spotify. Soundings is brought to you by the Surfer's Journal, a reader-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from Birdwell, FCS, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, Vissla, and Yeti. The Surfer's Journal is published 6 times a year. Along with the magazine, subscribers receive unlimited access to every article from its 30-year archive, as well as members-only access to additional digital content, exclusive film screenings, and sponsor offers. For more information, visit surfersjournal.com. Thanks again for listening to Soundings, and we will see you again.